Hey friends, what's up? Kaz here. Welcome back to another server admin tutorial or bucket plugin tutorial. If you're joining me for the first time, feel free to hit that subscribe button in the gibbles below because I do these every week. If you have a suggestion of a plugin you'd like me to do, feel free to comment that in the gibbles below. That would be the comment section for you new people. And I will capture that, give you a shout out when it gets to it. Tutorial. Now this is an updated tutorial. The first one I did is really old and I don't think I had my nice recording stuff, so here we go. We're going back over it. There's also, I've learned a bit about this plugin over the I think 2 years now of using it. I think it's fantastic. It's really easy to use. If you're getting into permissions or running a server, you probably want to use it. Now, this is PermissionsEX or PEX for short, and it's a permissions plugin is like a foundation plugin for your server. It controls all of the commands and kits and stuff that you want your users access to without giving them op commands and all that. So when you're setting up permission or when you're setting up plugins, you'll see permission nodes. It's like usually the plugin name dot whatever it is that they have access to, and then you would just assign that to your users or groups. User can be a part of multiple groups, so it can help you manage that better. It can modify like chat formatting and all that stuff depending on the groups that you're a part of. You can inherit from other groups, so it's really easy to set up. You don't have to like repeat permission nodes, so that you have a default group and then all your groups just inherit from that or inherit from the group below it as it goes up. That's kind of how it goes. So as I said, the basics of it is kind of like all the plugins out there will have a permission node. So you would just assign to your user or to the group. Like last week we talked about Ultimate Skyblock, so you'd want to give them usb.island.create. Now that gives them everything that they need to create, restart, info, just about everything they need on their island. However, it doesn't really include everything. What you can do with PEX and just about any plugin, permissions plugin out there, is you can do like a wildcard, which means it'll give the player everything underneath that node. So you can give them usb.island.star, and that gives them everything under that node. So you might want to be careful if it's like a base node. So if it's usb.star, then that would give them access to everything related to Skyblock. Probably don't want to do that. So if you do a star, you can negate or subtract permission nodes from underneath that by doing like a hyphen or a negative usb.island.ban. So even though you've given them access to everything under USB, you can remove that single one from underneath. It's kind of helpful like that. You could set up rank ladders so that you can do PEX promote or demote users, and it'll automatically move that user up the rank so that the plugin knows what's in order. Now, however, that doesn't really translate to rank up plugins. This would not be a good like replacement for that. This is kind of just like a player management, help you modify and manage your mods a little bit better. Maybe instead of like, if you have like a mod structure, you could just go, oh yeah, you're on to the next one, PEX promote. It's kind of a dumb command. It just does one thing. It doesn't really like, it's not aware of anything. So you'd want to use a rank up command for getting people to go up through ranks. Now you can set group weights. Now this is where it's really important. This is how you can set your groups, which ones are primary and secondary, so that if you are using a rank up command, it will always set it'll know which one's always the primary rather than the last group that was added to it. That's kind of how PEX works. The weights is actually pretty cool. So let's get into it. The basic command structure of PEX is kind of like PEX, and then what you want to do it on, or like the group or user that you want to do, the person that you want to do that on, and then what you want to do to it. So I'll put a link to, I'm going to create a flowchart to help you guys figure it out, but it's basically like, you do PEX user and then the username and then what it is that you want to do to that. So add, remove, set, or whatever. If you want to modify that player's groups, then it would be PEX user, username, group name, and then whatever you want to do. So now, before we go any further into this plugin tutorial, I just want to take a quick note of this config file here before we go any farther. You guys have to know that you have to set this to true if you want ops to have access to any permissions commands. Otherwise it won't work, or you can give yourself permissions.star in the console. It's up to you guys, but this is probably easy. It's just set it to true, and then ops will have access to all the permissions commands. That's pretty easy. Let's get into some of the in-game commands. So we can do PEX user and then the username, and then it'll tell you everything about them, give you their UUID. It'll tell what ranks, or what groups they're part of, what the rank is for that group, if they have any specific permissions, and then their name. So you can actually do PEX user cause for Christ, and then you can check. So I think essentials.balance. So then you do check, and then that one, and it'll check to see if they have that permission node if you want to do that. So you can also do PEX user username and then add or remove a permission node. So if we want to do essentials.tp, that'll give me just me access to that. So then we're just looking at the user stuff. So we can also, if we want to, we could do PEX users cleanup group and then the number of days. I'm not going to push that in because this is just a test server, and that will remove everybody from that group that is so many days old, like they haven't been on. You can modify the prefix and suffix for the specific user if you like. So PEX user username prefix or suffix, and then what you want to do. You can remove the person from your permissions node, so that when they, or permissions plugin, so then when they log back in, they will start back over the default. That's PEX user username delete. You can list the users in a certain world by doing PEX user username list and then the world, or you can just do PEX user. Actually, that will just list all the permissions that they have access to, which is kind of nice. You can do that in regards to the world. So if you want to just see the ones in regards to world, which we haven't really set up per world permissions yet for this, so that is how that goes. You can do timed permission nodes, which is super cool in this plugin. So you do PEX user username timed. So it's PEX user username, or yeah, so it's me timed, and then add, and then the perm that you want to add, I don't know, essentials TPA, and then the number of seconds, so 60 seconds, and then we'll just leave, you could put a world at the end so it's specific to that world if you'd like. We just left it open, so that's just for all of it, and it'll remove it after 60 seconds, which is really cool. Now let's get into the PEX, the group management here. So we do PEX hierarchy, so we could see, ooh, I spelled it wrong, hierarchy. Now we could see our group structure. Now the D is inheriting from C, C is inheriting from B, and B is inheriting from A, so that's why it looks like that. So we can do PEX user group list, so we can see the groups that they're a part of. So for group management of it, we'll go into it a little bit more detail in a bit here, but basically you would do PEX user username group, and then you're going to do add, remove, or set. Now the three differences of that is if you do set, it's going to wipe out all the other groups they're part of and make it that the only group they're part of. So if you want to have multiple groups, you probably want to use the add command, and then remove is self-explanatory. And then you have the group name, and then if you only want it in a specific world, you put that world in there. So then we're getting into some more group management, as you saw the PEX hierarchy. So you do PEX set default group, and then the group, and then true or false. So that will change the default group as you'd like, so that when they join your server, that is the default group that they want. You can actually set it per world if you'd like, by putting a world at the end of that, but I haven't done a whole lot with that. Kind of up to you guys to play with that. So then you can do PEX group or groups, and it's going to list all the groups that are out there, which is kind of nice. So you can see overall structure, all that stuff, and then you can set your prefix and suffix if you'd like. So PEX group name. So if we want to change it for D, we do PEX group D, and then prefix, and then what we want it to be. You know, you can put your colors in there as well. And then if you're creating a group, it's going to be PEX group name, and then create or delete. But if you're doing create, you can put a parents group at the end of it, and then it'll automatically set up the inheritance, which is really cool. If you've already created the group and you need to set it, you do PEX group parents set, and then the parent. I'm going to go through a quick example here in a moment. You do PEX group name, add or remove perm, and then the world specific to that, which is kind of cool. Like I said, you do per world permissions for it, and then you can also do timed ones as well for your group, which is PEX group name, timed, add or remove perm, and then the time, and then if you want it up for a specific world. That's how it goes. Let's get into an example real quick. Let's do PEX group E create D. So we're going to, as you can see, we don't have a group E, so we're going to create a group E, and then we're going to inherit from D. So there we go, and then we're going to do PEX group E prefix, and then we're going to set the prefix for group E, and we're going to change that. I just copied it from D, and we've set the prefix, and actually that messed up. So can we do that? Nope. Nope. Keep setting it in that specific group. Okay, so we can't do that. If you put a space there, then it's automatically thinking you're adding it to that specific world, which is kind of annoying. So we'll see. You'll see that all in the config file here in a moment. So then we're going to do PEX user, and then we're going to have me, and then do group set E. So now remember, that's going to wipe out all the groups, and it's going to set me to E. So there we go. Now you can see that the formatting is kind of weird because of how we had to do that. We could change that in the config. So we'll do PEX user constant Christ, and then group add VIP. So we're going to add a second group, and now we could see that I have a suffix showing up like that. And then we can do PEX group E add essentials.fly, and then we want only fly to be in this world, which is the name of this world. It's the default world. We don't want to be flying in Sky World. So, and there we go. So now I'm not op. So now I can do fly. So now I can fly around here. So, and then I can do is home. So I go to my home, which is in a different world. MV, I don't think I could do that. Nope, I don't have the permission. So then I can do fly, and I don't have access to it. So we can go back, and we could fly. Pretty cool. So that's how you do your per world permissions in there. Now for setting ladders is a little bit tricky. Like I said, ladders are not really that essential. They're good for management of that and all that stuff, but you can do PEX group, and then we're gonna need to set E, rank, and then the number. So I think we want to do, so 60 is the next one down, and then we can even set this to have a different ladder. So you can have different ladders in there. By default, it's just going to be the ladder name default. You can set like your donors ladders or whatever, or your mod ladder, so rather than the default one. So there we go. We've changed the rank of it, so then we could do PEX promote and demote. Now you can't demote and promote yourself, so don't do this on yourself. And then if you want people to be able to promote and demote other people in ladders, you can give them permissions.user.promote or demote.ladder. The name of the ladder, I believe. I'll have it on the screen here. So the next thing is group weights. Now how PEX keeps groups in order, knows which is the primary and secondary, is by weights. The lower the weight, the higher the priority of it. So this is essential for having players be part of multiple groups. So you can set the groups by doing PEX group and then the group name. So we're going to do E, and then set weight, and then I think we want to set it to 16, so that's going to be one less than the then D. But I mean, if they're only going to be part of one of the prison race, you could probably keep them all the same weight and then just have your donor ones to be a higher weight. Now, the thing you won't see right here, but you will see in the config file when we go over to it, the donor ranks are all set to 100 and the prison ranks are all under 20. So that's kind of to show you guys that structure there. So we talked a little bit about the prefix and suffix. Couple notes on that. You need to have Essentials Chat for this to show up, or some sort of chat program. PEX does not show the prefix and suffix by default, but it does plug into whatever permissions plugin or chat plugin that you run. You can't have two prefixes and two suffixes. There are, I've heard of chat programs out there that do that, or chat plugins, but I'm not aware of any, and I haven't played with any. So sorry guys, you're kind of on your own in figuring that one out. I know you could probably use Easy Prestige to do two prefixes, but if you're looking for like admins or mods to have a second prefix, you probably just need to manually set that per user. Okay, so here we are in our server. We're going to take a look at the config file real quick. It should be quick and easy because we've done a lot of it in game, so it's not a whole lot to hit. But if you prefer to go through config files, here you go. So we're going to go into plugins, and then it'll create this PermissionsEX folder in here, and then we're going to open the config. Now, not a whole lot to go over in here. You pretty much can leave this by default. You can allow ops. Now what this will do is, if you set this to true, anybody who's an op will have access to all the commands in the game. By default, this isn't set up with PEX, so you have to go ahead and set it like we said earlier in the game. Okay, so what we really want to take a look is the permissions file. This is where everything is saved. All your user information is down here. All your group information is up here. So like I said, you pretty much did everything in game. You can kind of see the structure of how a group is set up in here, and then you can replicate that throughout. Now your options and permissions and inheritance doesn't really matter the order that it's in, just that it's in this indentation, and it has to be spaces. If you don't have spaces, it's gonna fail and your permissions plugin is not gonna load when you start your server. If you have problems with it, you can copy this entire thing into a YAML online checker. There will be a link in the gibbles, and it'll tell you where your errors are. So you have your options. This is going to be your default true. You don't need to have that. Like I said, any of these entries are optional. They don't need to be in there. You don't need to have a prefix. You don't need to have a weight or a rank in there. Now we can see down here we set the rank ladder for VIP to be the donor's ladder, so these ones are associated with each other, and then the rank is 100 and then 90. So the lower the rank, the higher priority. 1 being the highest rank ever. You can't set a 0 because that will remove it from the ladder. Now here's the one that we created, and you could see that we accidentally added it to some worlds that don't matter, but we can see in here we got worlds, and then we got the world name, and then the permissions, and then that permission node for that world, which is super cool. It's so easy. And then if you want to remove a permission node, like we were talking about, a negate, that's going to be that hyphen sign in here. And sometimes I find it easier just to edit these config files because you see everything and it makes sense to me. It's all laid out in there. You got your inheritance options, and then up here you have your permissions for that group. So like I said, you don't see a permissions entry in this group because there doesn't need to be one. It's just inheriting from A. It doesn't have any unique permissions, but we could, if we do enter and then space in permissions and then add essentials.tp, whatever we want to do, and that's it. Now if you're editing this on a live server, you need to do PEX reload after you've edited it. That is all. Hopefully that helps you guys out and get starting with this awesome permissions plugin. I think it's the greatest one to get started. It's very simple and straightforward, and it'll help you guys get your feet wet in getting a permissions plugin. I do plan on doing an updated one for Group Manager, as I used it for about 7 months, but spoiler alert, I changed back to PEX. I like PEX a lot better. It's just a lot simpler, but that might be just because of how my mind works. It just makes more sense to me. So anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. This is Kaz from McFriends, reminding you guys all, enjoy the game. God bless.